There we go. Thank you for the chat. No audio thing. God, one of these days I'm gonna get this all right. I had my mic muted because I went to the bathroom, and you never want it. Just in case you don't want, even though you're not live, you're gonna mute, and then I forgot to unmute. So now everybody can hear me. Let's start over again. One day, I will start a show and it'll be flawless. It's never gonna happen, is it? Never going to be happening. All right, well, audio is back now. I'm catching up on all the chat saying no sound, no sound, no sound, but of course that is there. There I can see myself on the live feed that you're getting. I just turned my audio on, and there we go. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, hopefully red lips. No, I'll just start that over again. Hi, good morning. Greetings, everybody. Good to see you. Again, one day I'll get this right. So what I was saying was last week I didn't do a live show last week because I have all these projects working on simultaneously that all have to be done by the end of July before I go away for most of August. And basically that was it. That was the whole hope you saw the OpenGate thing. That was awesome. I'm stoked on how that one came out. So hopefully you got a chance to see that. If you didn't, please do go check out the OpenGate video, and need the mute button on the Stream Deck with feedback. Wouldn't that be nice? It's a hardware mute though, on the on here. That's the only way to truly know, right? I mean, that's sure you can mute anywhere. I mean, I could mute it, and it was muted. It was muted through the Stream Deck because it was pre-show. But when you go into the bathroom, you're like, I'm gonna, because what if, just in case, because we've had those situations before where it's the pre-show and people are like, we can hear you. And you're going, what did I cross? Anyway. Hi. So obviously people can hear me now. That's excellent. Thank you for that. Not looking at the chat. No, I was looking at the chat, John. The thing is that the chat is quite delayed. This is because I'm streaming in 4K, which I am streaming in 4K, which if you are not watching in 4K and you're on a device capable of it, bump that baby up to 4K, get the full 4Ks. It's quite delayed, right? There is like a 40-ish second delay to real time. So, anyway. All right, so we got started. People can hear me now. I do believe we do seem to have that. Quick little shout out, where y'all coming in from? Need a volume peaking on the screen? I have that too. I do. In fact, it's right here, but I just wasn't. Yeah, there's so many things to look at when the show starts. And sometimes I see it over here, I can see it here. But you know what? Actually, there is one more thing I'm adding. I think I showed you the, what's that thing called? I don't remember what it's called now. The box that's the LUFS meter. And I now have all the pieces for that. I just haven't had a chance to hook it up yet. That is gonna sit here, and that would be yet another indicator, but I'd probably still totally blow that because it would just be sitting there without doing anything. That's the problem. When there's no audio, it's not like there's something going, no audio. There's something that's not doing anything. Figure that one out. Okay, anyway, let's just move on, shall we? So what are we doing today? Today we are talking about LUMIX Tether. The LUMIX Tether app used to be called LUMIX Tether for multicam. Actually, technically, there were two different apps. There's LUMIX Tether, then LUMIX Tether for multicam. They brought them together last year at some point, so it's a single app called LUMIX Tether. Now, LUMIX Tether does a variety of things. It is number one, it's for controlling your camera. Now, if you're doing still photography, you can control a camera connected over USB and do things like offloading the files from it, of course, controlling the camera, doing overlay stuff, which is really cool. So if you're doing some kind of product photography and you want to, position, let's say you got a box, right? And you want to position it at a specific angle, and then the next photo, you got to rotate it, you got to get it at the exact same angle. The overlay helps you with that. Really cool functions in there. We're not talking about that today. We're not talking about photography with the LUMIX Tether app. Today we're talking specifically about video. If you guys do want to see a demo of all the photography features, it's been a long time since we've looked at that, so I'm happy to do that again, but I'll make that a whole separate show because this is about the video. Second, we are, the new update that just came out from LUMIX Tether 2.2, I think it was, and there's a link in the description below if you need to update. It didn't add very much, but one of the things that it added was support for the GH6 with its new update, and that is connected over USB, not over the network. I'm not showing anything on the GH6 today. I have not even updated my GH6 to the new firmware. Again, like I was saying earlier, I've just been in the middle of a whole bunch of projects. I haven't had time, so we're not talking about anything specific to the GH6. It really isn't specific anything to that. It just supports the camera now. Great. but we are going to be using my 5 BGH1 setup for this because those are the cameras that are obviously hooked into my LUMIX Tether app. And I'm going to show you the functionality of the app. I'll show you the things that I specifically use, but I'll show you the things that I don't use as well, because there's a lot of functions in there that, that I don't take advantage of, but that are absolutely worth knowing, and of course just depending on your particular setup. So the cameras that are supported, let's just do that first. So you've got your BGH1, the box camera, which is what I'm going to be working with today. You also have the BS1H, the other box camera from Panasonic, and that is also fully supported, exactly the same as the BGH1. I don't have any BS1Hs in-house, doesn't matter, it's the same. And then there's also the GH5 Mark II. And these three cameras are specifically for controlling over a network, and I believe that is the extent of that list right now. The BGH1 and the BS1H both have Ethernet ports built into them, which is personally one of the things that makes me love these cameras so darn much. The GH5 Mark II, you can actually use a USB-C to Ethernet adapter, so that works on that camera. So just FYI, network-wise, that's how those work. If you are using any of the other cameras that are supported, which is the vast majority of the current LUMIX lineup, those are supported over USB. So plug in a USB connection and you can see the camera. You can connect multiples. I don't know what the limit is, but at some point you're going to saturate your USB bus. So if you're doing a bunch of cameras, clearly the network solution is the way to go. It just provides a whole lot of additional advantages. I also want to talk about how I have my setup running. I know I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I think it's worth just covering what I'm doing. So the LUMIX Tether app itself can run on one host at a time. It can run on both Mac or Windows, and it can only run on one at a time. So if you have it running on one computer and you try to fire it up on another one, it's not going to be able to find the cameras. The cameras, once they connect to an instance of the app, that's where the connection is, and there we go. If you want to control it on another computer, you have to quit the app that's running it and then launch it on the other computer, and that takes time. It takes time to establish the connections. It actually takes a little bit of time for it to release the connection when you quit an app, and so that whole process takes time. And because of the nature of my studio, where I might want to control them from here, I might want to control them from my office, I might want to even control them from my iPad, and there is no iOS version of the app, the way I have mine set up is I have a dedicated PC, just a little NUC, one of those little, looks like a Mac Mini kind of things, little tiny computer. I basically bought the cheapest one I could get, stuck that on my rack, and that runs the LUMIX Tether app 24/7. And that's what you're going to see the demo on today, running through there. The way I'm going to be controlling it, because you'll notice that I am on a Mac, even though you're going to see that I'll be controlling a Windows computer, is I'm using a screen share service. I'm using one called Jump. I have used pretty much all of them, and I have found Jump to be by far the best. Super reliable, really, really easy to use. It always works, which is, it's one of those things. Sometimes these services, they just don't work. Just randomly, you're on the other side of the world and you're like, I need to connect and my machine doesn't. Jump always works. It's been fantastic. It obviously has clients for both Mac and Windows, since I'm running a Windows computer from my Mac, and you can control it from iOS. So I don't know about Android. Don't know. But from iOS, iPad OS or iOS on your phone, you can control your computer. So that means if I want to take control of my BGH1 cameras from the iPad, for whatever reason, maybe I have to go to the other side of the building and do whatever, I can. And that's so good. But it also means that I can access it from multiple devices simultaneously. I don't have to shut down one service and go launch it on another. I can have it running on both because I'm looking at the one service, right? I'm just screen sharing it from here or here and there all at the same time from multiple platforms. Really, really slick. So that's how that whole thing is running, which is why you'll see it running on a PC. Again, it's nothing powerful. It's, like I said, the cheapest little PC NUC thing that I could buy, and it's doing the job, and it's working great. And it turns out it's kind of handy to have a PC around. I'm a total Mac guy, in case you didn't know. So that's that. So with that said, we're ready to jump into it. Let's take a look at the chat real quick and see what is going on, and then we will move on. So here, I'm going to scroll up to the top of this to where everybody's yelling at me about the chat, and let's bring up the chat, and there we go. So first comment that came up here, so I'd really love for them, meaning Panasonic, to release an easier protocol or SDK for allowing this type of control for developers. I'm not a developer, so I don't know what makes a good SDK or a bad one or an easy one or not easy one. Sorry, I don't know. I will happily take that feedback back, but I would like to take more than just make it easier, make it better. If you have specific feedback for what you would like to see, let me know. I'm happy to pass that along. Again, I don't know anything about this space, so I can't look at it and say, this works, doesn't work. I don't know, but happy to pass along feedback. So you're welcome to put that on Twitter. You can DM me on Twitter. That's always a good way to reach me. But yeah, that's happy to pass along feedback. I just don't know what it might be. So here's everybody telling me there's no audio. Look at that. Zach's telling me my audio is muted along with like everybody else in here. Emerald telling me that you need to be lip reading. Emerald, you'll see, has a nice little funny icon there. That's his membership icon, because Emerald is a member of the channel. You too could become a member of the channel, and then you can support this madness. But the other thing that you get out of it, which is really cool, is we actually have a Discord, a private Discord that is for PhotoJoseph members. And within that Discord, we have conversations about anything and everything. I just created a food channel because too many people were talking about food. And like, I like food, let's just make a food channel. But it's, obviously mostly live streaming stuff, camera stuff. It doesn't have to just be Lumix. People have camera discussions about other cameras, and I'm like, I'm out, I don't know. But yeah, it's a great small community to talk about tech, camera, streaming, or show off your latest barbecue, which is always good too. So please consider joining. Look for the little join button below. That'd be awesome. That would be lovely. All right, moving on. Freddie said stream was choppy. Well, choppy's not good. Let's bring that back up. Hopefully you got that resolved. Anybody who's getting choppy, just refresh. That usually fixes that. Anyway, need a volume peaking on screen. We have determined that is the case, and 40 seconds delayed due to 4K. So are we at 40 these days? I actually, so you might have noticed I got this little guy back here. I forget what it's called. Sorry, 1 second. Where'd my kid go? Oh, he's sitting in my office. I'm like, my kid's here because it's summer, and what are you going to do during the week? And he has apparently moved into my office to be extra quiet. How sweet of him. Anyway, so I've got this little Lumu app here, which is fun. Let me see if I can figure out where the, not Lumu, what is that thing called? Doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's my subscriber count, which is super awesome. I get to see that kind of as it goes up. But also, I have it set up so you can flip it to a clock. I'm trying to figure out how to control it from the Stream Deck, and that would be a handy way to just measure time delay. Hear that pop? That's my ceiling because it's getting warm out. Anyway, babbling away. Let us just continue and then get on with the show, shall we? Always helpful content and great to see real issues resolved. Real issues like you forgot to unmute your mic because you went potty. There we go. Excellent. We try. Can you add the information on the screen? Sharing in the description later. I can. Yeah, it's just called Jump. Jump Desktop. Let me here. I'll pull it up on here. I think Jump Desktop is probably the website, but yep, Jump Desktop. Let me load that page. And I will add this into the description below as well. The the web page is very like 1980s. It's a little bit of a junky website, but who cares? The fact is, it works. So yeah, so iOS, Mac OS, and Windows. So I guess it does not work on Android. But anyway, there you go. So that's the app. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to check that out. All right, moving on, let us start looking at the software. Let me get it up on my screen, find the right screen, there we go. And here's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna share my PC. And now right now you're seeing the same video through. It's a little bit stuttered. Right now we're not seeing the highest frame rate quality possible. And it's not gonna be in sync because that is obviously not what this is designed for. So when we're looking at the PC window, don't expect it to be in sync. It's not meant for live streaming. It's just so that you can preview what's happening. You can actually increase the quality, but it takes a lot of network bandwidth. And so unless you need it, there's not really much of a reason to do it because again, you're using it to preview a shot. But anyway, let's just dive in. So here's a tour. Let me actually close two of these windows, and we'll start off with just the main window here. So this is the main control panel that comes up when you first launch it, and initially this is all you're going to see, and that's all that you actually need to do anything. If you're working with multiple cameras, there's the camera list, and so here we can see my list of all the cameras connected. So there's my main wide, main tight, overhead, shoulder/server, because I moved that one around, and my front moving, and then this is the one that's in my office. So there's actually 6 cameras connected. And then LV is for live view. You tap that, and you get the live view through that camera. On the right-hand side of this menu, you'll find a bunch of other controls. There's a menu button, which gets into the camera menus. We're going to go into that, don't worry. And then a set of unique controls which are largely what make this so incredibly awesome. This ability to do things like set your white balance, set your focus from a single dedicated button that just launches into those capabilities. So let's just kind of dive through the features. First off, to show switching between cameras. If you look at this list, I'll go ahead and I'll switch over to the main tight, and it takes between 2 and 3 seconds for that switch to happen. That's actually a slight improvement. It was between 3 and 4 seconds. The latest update sped that up just a little bit, which is nice. You know, it's not a live switching thing. Again, it takes a couple seconds to make that switch, but there you go. And so from here, I can preview each of the cameras. So there's my main tight camera. If I look at the overhead, there's not really much on the table here, but there we go. There's my overhead camera. I'll look at the shoulder camera, and I think that's pointing at the screen. Yep, so that's pointing right at the screen here. And then the front moving camera, which is just, I think, just pointing at the desk. Oh, that's right, I set it up as a super wide shot, so you get this big old wide shot in there. So that's how you switch between the cameras that you want to look at and control. For the most part, you are controlling a single camera at once. There are some functions you can do for multiples, mainly recording, stop and start recording, but for the most part, you're controlling one camera at a time. Just so you know, that's how that works. Okay. There's a little button over here that it shows the camera icon itself. This sleeps and wakes the camera. So let's see here. I can do this safely. So I'm going to sleep my main wide camera, and you can see that goes dark, and then of course the image here goes black because there's no longer an image there. I can switch back over to any of the other channels and still have full control of that. I'll go here, wake this one back up, and switch to it, and that is going to, of course, wake that up and switch to it, and there we go. So this is what I usually do when I'm not shooting with them, when I'm not using the cameras. I go in there and I just sleep them so that they draw less power, of course. These cameras, by the way, the BGH1s are all on PoE+, so they're all being powered over Ethernet, which is awesome. It just facilitates setup. It's that single cable that gives both the power and obviously the network control. So that's pretty cool. I could actually turn the power off at the switch level, but then that would be the equivalent of just yanking the power out of the camera. There's no need to do that, so I just sleep them and they draw minimal power. It's not zero, but they do draw minimal power while they're on in sleep mode. So that's just where I leave them. When I'm done for the day or I'm not shooting, I do that. Even for privacy, right? Just in the event of some crazy hack, something or other, I don't need my cameras all on, so the cameras are off when they're not, are sleeping when they're not needed. And then finally, to the right of that, you'll see this little arrow here. This allows me to rearrange the order of them. So I have them in an order that I like. So I got my office one, then the main wide, main type, blah, 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 and so on. So that little button allows you to reorder those. This update is simply a refresh. When you click that, it just refreshes this window. So if you had, let's say, plugged in a new camera, turned it on, it's not going to just show up in the list. You hit that refresh button, that update button, and that refreshes the list on there. And then you've got it. So there's that. In the chat here, Doug is saying, Doug Johnson, good to see you, buddy. Looks like you have a little buffering going on. That is unfortunate. It does look like I'm seeing that actually as well. My cache is slightly filling up. All right, so what I'm going to do now, we're going to see if one of my presets actually works. I'm going to switch the live streaming quality from medium to low, and that should drop the bit rate, and we'll see what happens. I'm actually using, do I have this piped up so I can show this to you? I don't think I have it set up easily. The web presenter, no, I don't have a shortcut set up for that, but I'm controlling my web presenter from the Stream Deck, which is always cool, and I have just dropped that to a lower quality, and let's just see what happens. I do see the cache is holding 36. Let's see what happens there. But it has dropped the bit rate. Goodness gracious. Fingers crossed. People are saying buffering. Yep. Well, hopefully, cache is filling up. Ooh, cache is starting to get big. 40%? That's not good. Great. 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 There's always something, isn't there? Well, I may just have to continue and hope for the best, but because I can't switch the internet connection on there without killing the whole show. Certainly can't reboot the what do you call it? The modem without killing the whole show. It is filling up. Dang it. I'm not quite sure what we can do at this point. I can't drop the resolution. And that wouldn't matter anyway. I'm only at 13 megabit. This is ridiculous. Something else is amiss. That is very, very unfortunate. 41%, 40%. Okay, it's going back. 40, 41 is hovering around. Well, I guess we're just going to continue on. And if the show goes completely to poop, then we will rely on the replay. I can always re-upload it. Okay, the cache is lowering, so hopefully this is going to end up working out in the end. Thank you, Doug, for letting me know. I guess we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on back to the system. Let's get rid of that. And moving on. Okay, so that's this little window here. So a lot happens in that tiny little window. This window, of course, is controlling the camera. Most of these buttons are going to be fairly obvious. Things like your aperture control, your shutter control. Now you'll notice I don't actually have shutter control because it's set to a 218-degree shutter. That is because I have it set to Synchro Scan. When it's in Synchro Scan, for some reason, I don't know why, you can't actually control it from there. You can see what it is, but you can't control it. You have to go into the menus to go into Synchro Scan. And if you're wondering why in the world I have some of these cameras on Synchro Scan, I'm actually questioning that myself right now. That one, oh, I forgot, it should be at 180. I forgot to change it from another project. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the Synchro Scan, if you're not familiar with that, allows you to change the refresh rate so that essentially the shutter angle, the shutter speed, if you will, to line up in sync with certain video things. And I'm surprised that this is not flickering because I thought that it was at my 218 setting. And the 218 setting is specifically for the ATEM buttons. That's so that they don't flicker when I put them on camera. So I'm not sure why that's not flickering. Anyway, okay. Anyway, moving on. So that's where you would set your shutter speed or shutter angle if you have that set. This button here allows me to jump into the different record modes, and so all your standard PASM, but also your custom ones, your C1 through 5 or however many you have set up. My live show is set up on custom 5. Unfortunately, the names don't show up in here because you can customize the names, but that's where you would set your mode on there if you need to change that. Then underneath that, your drive mode, that's going to be specifically for still photography. White balance, so from here you can set your white balance. So I've got custom 1 set. If I was to go in and set this to, I don't know, let's go like cloudy. Not much of a change, but you can see that change on there. So now that is set to the incorrect white balance. And I'll go back and set that to my custom 1. Oops, not sun. Where was I? Where we were at custom 1. There we go. And that is my custom white balance for this setup. Now I'm going to go from this white balance setting and go into the actual how you set the white balance, which is largely, it's like one of the #1 reasons. Oh, my cache is at 3% now, so we're good. I'm going to try and bump the quality back up and see what happens. So let's see how that, and I'll keep an eye on it. Setting the white balance, custom white balance, is one of the most amazingly awesome features in using this whole setup. And let me show you how this works. So I'm going to grab my white balance card. So you don't, it's advisable if you're doing white balance to use a proper white balance card. Obviously, anything that is white will do. Here's a discussion that I've had many times, and people like to disagree with me on this, but I'm maintaining that I am right. When you're doing white balance, it's better not to use something that is pure white, but something that is a gray, a slight gray, as the actual white balance card from X-Rite Color Checker is. Why would you want a pure white gray? I've actually done a whole video on this like years ago. I mean, it was in the other room when I did this one. But the reason for that is if you are, how do you know something is white? You know it's white because your RGB levels line up. 255, 255, 255 is pure white. 200, 200, 200 is pure neutral, no color cast. It's not white, but we're not doing white as a brightness level. We're doing white as a neutral. So it almost would be a better name to call it a neutral balance than a white balance. It would probably be a better name. It would probably be less confusing, but whatever. It's white balance. So for it to be truly balanced, your RGB numbers have to be the same. They can be 111 or 255, 255, 255, or 200, 200, 100. As long as they're the same, you're in balance. If you use a pure white card, an actual white card, and your exposure is slightly overexposed when you do it, then your correct white balance might be that it was like 255, 285, 285. Well, you can't have that. So it's all going to max out at 255, 255, 255. And then when you bring the exposure down, your color balance is off. Like, what just happened here? So if you have a card that is not pure white, that you do your white balance off of, then it can actually do a true neutral because it has room above and below. It's not trying to max it out, and of course there's nothing above 255 for it to go to. So best off to use a true neutral card. Barring that, of course, you can use just a white piece of paper that is, in a pinch, that'll work. I would say if you're going to do that, slightly underexpose when you do your white balance for safety. But if you're doing this right, then it's worth having a card that is a true white card. So with that, and I should probably replace this one. This is quite a few years old. I always keep it in a bag in the dark, so to keep minimal fading and color shifting, but it's probably time to adjust this. Anyway, moving on. So how does this work so well? And I can see my cache is still good, and my data rate is back up, so I'm happier now. Let's go back into the software, and I have my white balance currently set to custom 1. I'm going to set it to custom 2 right now, so there we can see it's totally off. And I mean totally off. Let's see if I can find one that's really off, just so this is super obvious. Let's see here. What is 3? 3 looks the same. Just trying to find one that's going to be really, they're all the same. Excellent. Well, whatever. So we'll just set this one to 2. So I'm going to use 2, which is a little bit off. You can see it's kind of purplish. You can see that on there. It's kind of purplish. Anyway, so now we go over here on the right-hand side, and there's this thing called white set. And I click white set. I feel like there's a UI piece that's missing. Oh, that was it. I forget. Sorry, just to explain something real quick. The icon, the cursor that I see is different than the cursor that you see. And I'm like, why hasn't it updated? It's just because I'm just being dense. So let's do that again. I'll go to another one that is off. Let's go to custom 3. So I go to custom 3. I click on white set. I think, does the cursor change? I'm trying to see the cursor that you're seeing. Wait, are you not seeing a cursor? You're not seeing a cursor. Oh. Okay, well, I think that has to do with my jump software. Okay, I'm going to try and fix that. And now the white balance is off. I'm going to try and fix that because I did not realize you couldn't see the cursor. No one's ever said that before. Someone comment for me, make sure, because I'm looking at a small version of it. You genuinely don't see the cursor when I'm on the Windows machine on the PC, correct? Please let me know that while I try to figure out how to fix this. I think that's something I can change in Jump. I've never noticed that before. And do I have to, I guess I have to exit out of it before I can make changes. Okay. So I am now exiting out of control, display. Here you can see what I'm looking at. Keyboard and mouse, cursor updates, swap buttons. Cursor updates, I don't even know what that means. Profile, auto, All right, I'm waiting for someone to comment whether they are actually not seeing the cursor. Okay, I'm going to turn that off, and let's just see what happens. It's the only thing that's in there. See, I see my mouse, and you see the mouse there. Now let's switch to the actual Windows view. Nope, you're still not seeing it, are you? Wow, okay, well, I do apologize for that. I never realized that before, and that's obviously not cool, but trying to figure out a way around that. I don't know. I do. Well, it's going to make it a little bit harder to follow along, but hopefully you'll manage. If it gets too horrible, just tell me. I'll cancel the whole show. I don't even know. Okay, so let's go back to it. So let's get the PC back up on here. Freddie's saying, no, sir. I'm assuming that means no cursor. Yeah, dang. That is so bizarre. That is super bizarre. And I just don't know what that cursor update thing was supposed to be. I guess what I can do, I guess I'll do it this way. I'll show it to you this way. So you're going to see it through my Mac. That is better because then at least you see the Mac cursor, which let's go ahead and make that back to the Windows cursor, which if I can figure out where that screen is. Let me cancel this. Let me disconnect, change the setting for that. I think cursor update, I guess that means that it shows me the actual Windows cursor because that's what I was seeing earlier. No, it doesn't. I have no idea what that means. And, oh, no, wait, sorry. We're still not. Yeah, we still don't see it. So, okay, so this is the actual Windows view. This is the screen share view. So I think it's a slight quality difference, but this is what we're going to have to look at. So, okay, moving on. Again, sorry about that, folks. I will have to see if I can figure out why that happens. White set. So white set, I have my white balance set to 1. Let's go ahead and set this to one of the ones that's off. Go to 3. I click on white set. I think if you're looking at the actual computer, where you see the cursor, it'll change to an eyedropper. And what I now do is just hold up something white, and I'm tilting this to get the zebra striping off of there. And then I simply roll my mouse over that white thing, and Did I do it? Let's try that again. And click. Boom. And there we go. And now you've just done a white balance. That makes white balancing multiple cameras so much easier. So I do that for the front camera, and I'm going to set mine back, even though it is accurate now, just to keep things consistent. I'd go to my main tight camera, do the same thing. So I'm going camera by camera, doing that, the overhead, the over the shoulder, the front camera, doing that as we go one at a time from the same location. Without having this capability, what that means is that I have to run over to the camera. This is what I used to do, and I'm sure many of you have done this. Find a way to set your white balance on something. You got books stacked up, you're holding it in the center of the frame, and then you run over back to the camera, and you realize that it's too small or it's in the wrong position. So you come back and forth, you finally get it in the right spot, you do the custom white balance from the camera, and then you repeat that for all the cameras, which is a real bummer when you're talking about an overhead camera that's way up and out of reach. So that is one of the greatest features of being able to control this through the software. Just saying. All right, moving on. So that's the white balance, and again, you can set it here. ISO, you can set from here, exposure compensation, all the things you would expect to find in your camera. If you're doing still photography, you've got your picture size and quality. You can switch through your video formats from here. You can even filter through here, just like you can on the back of the camera. So you have all of this control in here. And so I don't want anything to change there. There we go. Focus mode, so I always set these to manual focus for the front cameras, but then autofocus for anything where things are moving. So here's how this works. So it's set to manual focus mode right now, and you'll see the little focus box. So let's say that I want to focus on me, which would, make sense. So I'm going to click on me, that puts the focus box over me. Now I do have manual focus adjusts here, so I can go in here and with little cursors change the focus like so. So that control I do have in here. So you've got a big step, and then you've got little baby steps for finer control. But what's really cool about this, let me wait for this zoom in to pop away. Let that zoom in pop away. Pop away, I say. Pop away. Nope, just stop. Oh, maybe because it's in that manual mode, it's going to stay there. Is it going to? Let's just switch that off. Switch that back. Come on, pop up, focus. There it goes. Now it's gone. Okay, so the focus box is over my face. Over here, we have a button. I guess one advantage of doing this is I can zoom in this way. We have this thing called one-shot AF, one-shot autofocus. Click that, and it does a check on me. And you can see that I've got focus peaking enabled as well, so we're obviously seeing the blue bits on my beard. But this allows me to know that I'm in focus with the blue focus peaking, but allows me to control exactly where it's focusing on with one click from the software. So if I was, let's go to the, that was the tight camera, let's go to the wide camera, same thing. Again, so here, a little bit more depth of field, we have a little bit more showing up in blue as in focus, but I'll go ahead and put it over my face, one-shot autofocus, it pulses it, finds it, and locks in. Massively, massively convenient. Now, if we look at my overhead camera, you'll see this one, let's get something in the frame, there we go. This one is set to autofocus, and it's, we all know, LUMIX cameras, they focus reasonably well, but not the best in the world, but that's okay. And for the overhead one, it actually works out quite well. So for this one, I leave this one on autofocus, and that works real nice for that. So that one I leave it autofocus, but let's just say that I was doing, something where I know nothing's gonna change on focus plane, I might just set it to manual and lock it in. But again, I have control of that from here. Reiterating the fact that I never have to go to the cameras to do this, I do it all from here. Then let's go back to the main one. So when it comes to focus, that is like the second huge thing. So you get your white balance that's massive, and then the ability to focus like that one-shot autofocus that's massive. You can do things like turn on a level in here, and you can turn on a grid for alignment, guidelines in here, all kinds of different things. And with the guidelines, you can actually go into extended controls and put more lines in here if you want to reposition the lines, which actually that's pretty cool, right? So if you wanted to have you can change the thickness of those. So if you were trying to line stuff up, like actually, this is actually kind of cool. So look at my shelves. I try real hard to keep everything perfectly aligned. So I can go in here and let's see, where is the vertical line? Oops, sorry, horizontal line. What am I looking at? Here we go. And I can say, let's line that up and see, it's like ever so slightly off. So look, now I'm gonna totally OCD this and have to go fix this later. But you can see your alignment, and you can move your alignment guide live, right? This is live video. You can align this up and then you can move your camera, move your subject or whatever it is. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So love, love that. Let's turn that off. You can bring up a histogram on here. It just shows up down at the bottom. Zoom in, what does this do? Zoom in scale. Oh, I guess just if you want to, oh, right. So when it does the manual focus zoom in, how far do you want it to zoom in for that? And then I guess from here, since we're in manual focus, I can be super, super precise about it. But I'm just going to leave it on the one-shot autofocus because that works brilliantly well. And then your live view rotate. So let's say, and I think I might actually have this in use on the overhead camera. The live view rotate, if your camera is in, mounted upside down or mounted in a position, you know how sometimes when you're looking at the LCD on the back of your camera, if you're trying to do like a top down and it's like, oh, it's flipping the image on the LCD. It's the same thing here, right? It's got a little gyroscope in the camera and it flips the image, the LCD image, what it thinks it's supposed to be. Sometimes when you're doing a top down, it doesn't get it right. And so, or it's tilted ever so slightly, so it's technically right, but it's not what you want. So from there, you can flip that around. Very handy. And you saw you can even go sideways. So if you're mounting the camera sideways, you can take care of that as well. Then you do have this live view quality, and I've set it to standard. Actually, let's see if we can tell a difference looking at it through here. I'm going to set it to fine, and I think we don't get an improved frame rate. I think it's more just about getting a higher bit rate, slightly better quality image. But yeah, the frame rate seems to stay the same. If I go all the way down to low, yeah, there you can really see the difference. There's definitely a much lower quality image. And so I leave mine at standard, and that's perfectly good enough for what I'm doing in there. Aspect ratio stuff, that's if you're doing still photography. So there's your basics in there. So this is what you can do from the main panel and then the panel over here on the right. Now, if we dive into these, there's two buttons at the bottom, flash for flash photography. We're not doing that. For settings, this is another really, really powerful function. So part of this is for still photography. So again, if you're shooting stills, where do the pictures go? Do they copy over the network and so on? But in raw file transfer, if you're shooting raw, do you want them to transfer the raw files and so on? But here's where stuff gets really, really cool. Firmware update. So you can do your firmware update directly from the software. So, you've got multiple cameras, your new firmware update comes out, instead of having to run over to each camera, pop in the SD card, do the whole thing, you have the ability to update the firmware from the software. Super, super cool. And then you have camera settings. The ability to save and restore your camera settings. So here's, first of all, a little PSA about working with the LUMIX, with the BGH1 and BS1H cameras, and probably the GH5 II as well, when you're working with these over the network. So I go in and I make a bunch of settings to the camera. My cameras are running 24/7 because they're on the network. They're powered over PoE. I sleep the cameras, wake up the cameras. If I do not shut the camera down properly, meaning press and hold the power button to shut it down and then boot it back up again, if for whatever reason it gets a hard power cycle, I get a brownout in the studio and my, I lose power. I don't know, the switch goes, somebody pulls a cable, whatever. For any reason, it doesn't get a proper power down, then the settings, the last things you have changed, your custom functions, all that stuff, will not be written to memory. So you need to power it down. But going on and manually powering the cameras down all the time, whenever you make a change to it, it's something you might forget to do, as I often do. But what you can do is save your camera settings to a file. Now so first of all, the PSA thing is just so you know why, if you make a bunch of settings and then one day your camera settings are gone, if there is a power cycle, that's why, and you hadn't properly powered them. But your recovery from that is to save and restore the settings files. And so if we look at my setup here, camera settings, save and restore. If I go to save, first of all, it asks which cameras do I want to save, so I can choose from here. So I don't have to switch to the camera, right? I don't have to switch to the camera up here. I can do this from this control panel. I can say, take my main type settings and then save them. And so I would give it an appropriate name, BGH1 main type, let's keep this consistent. And then I would put today's date, so 2022-07, what is this, 08. And now I'm going to save that setting and save that. And it tells me it's completed. You heard the chime. That is completed there. And now if we look in my folder on the desktop where I put these things, boom, boom, BGH1 settings, there it is. So there's that little, where is it? Somewhere, what are these? 7, there it is. There's that little file that I just saved. So now I can restore that. I can go back into here And if anything has changed, I click restore, which camera do I want to restore to, pick the right camera that I want to restore to, pick the right file, and load it up. This also means, to a degree, and sometimes your network settings can get a little bit confused this way, but to a degree, you can copy and paste settings from one camera to multiple others. You will likely need to go in and change some of the network settings if you have custom network settings on each camera, but this does allow you to copy the same settings across multiple cameras. If you're ever taking your cameras on location and you know that they're going to be changed, you're going to be messing with them on set and getting things all different and whatever, this is a great way to have an easy way to restore them back to their state that they were before you took them out. Just this ability to save and restore the settings, and again, doing it from the software, right? This ability to save and restore settings isn't new. This is in basically all the LUMIX cameras, save it to an SD card, but the ability to do it in the software to all those cameras at once, fantastic. In fact, I had to do this to restore the settings just before the live show today because I had not power cycled the cameras. We had a power outage a little while ago, and I'm like, what happened? Oh, right, the power outage. I never power cycled the cameras, but I had saved my settings the last time I had made a significant change to the cameras. So I was able to just pull that up. Super, super handy. So that is awesome. What else is in here? Camera password, check for app updates. Okay, nothing too exciting. So there's those settings in there. Now let's go into the menu. And this is the other just amazing part of these cameras. You have complete control of the menu system for the cameras as if you were at the camera. When on the BGH1 specifically, the first thing that comes up is the custom modes. Given that this camera is really, it doesn't have a built-in screen, it's kind of designed to be set up over the software and then restored to various settings. I have my custom settings here. You can see that they're all renamed, so you can rename them. That's what I was saying earlier. Unfortunately, the names don't show up in the little menu over here, but we see my custom names in here. And of course, I can go in and change anything in the camera as if I was at the camera itself. We got here we go. My custom ones that I have set up. So, my zebra is on. Synchro Scan, you see here, Synchro Scan is currently on. If I wanted to turn that off, do that from here. All of this control as if we were sitting at the camera itself. I have all of that control, and that right there is just phenomenal. So between your white balance control, your focus, manual focus control, and the ability to get into the menus as if you were at the camera, the ability to save and restore the settings, update the firmware. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on, but all of these things are fantastic, fantastic reasons to use this setup. And this is why I'm so in love with this setup. Now, I talked about this before in my 5x BGH1 video. It came out like 6 months ago or something, where I talked about the camera setup, how I have things set up, and so on. This is just a deeper dive into that app that is really the primary reason that I use all of these cameras here. That, I believe, is everything that I needed to show you in there. So let me go back into the question, comments, whatever's here, and see if there's anything else that has come up. So anyone who has any questions, do get them in there. We'll answer as many questions as we can, and then call this thing a day. So let's just say, let's go back to the chat here. And Video Still says they could include Panasonic CX350 in the app. I noticed that's I don't know anything about that camera. That's a video camera, right? One from the video lineup on the CX350. If it's not LUMIX, then if it's not a LUMIX operating system, then it's definitely not going to be compatible with this, right? It's a completely different, I think, I don't work with those cameras at all. As far as I know, a totally different operating system. So I would not expect that support to be there. I'm assuming it's a network-based camera, or you wouldn't even be suggesting it, but I don't know. Sorry. Let's see. Philip says, I'm a fan of the BGH1. I'll be using BGH1, UX180, and GH4 at a weekly concert series tonight. All right, here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Very, very nice. Doug Johnson agreeing with me. A neutral gray is indeed better for white balancing. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And then people saying the cursor was gone, but we found a solution. We found a way around it. Let me know, actually, was the cursor, did the image look okay? Did it look the same even looking at it on the screen sharing through the Mac, or could you see a slight quality drop through the screen share than you could from the native? I would imagine you could. I mean, it's got to be some kind of a quality drop, but I don't actually know. I don't actually know. All right. No other questions in here. I'm going to scroll back through and see if I missed anything while I wait for any other comments to come up, but then we might be wrapping this thing up a little bit on the early side, which is just fine because I got works to do. unless the chat broke, because people are still here. I am still live. I don't know. I guess no one's got any questions. Somebody talk to me, make me know that I'm still alive. I guess that's that. All right, I'll see if something comes up. But let's see, what else is on the agenda? What am I working on right now? The live streaming installation, I think I've told you guys a little bit about it. I'm setting up for a client in Texas. That is coming together. That is massive. If you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen yesterday I tweeted that I was looking for a software solution to measure the cable length, some way to map that out. I'll show you what I found actually. So it's running on Windows, which is what it is. But let me launch this little app here. I think it's a Russian app, actually, from what I can tell from the some of the stuff that is not translated. But it's called IP Video System Design Tool. It's not cheap. It's $300 a year. I thought I could get it for a month, but I couldn't, so I had to pay for a full year. But that's okay. It is worth it for this client. And let me open the layout that I'm actually working with. Let's switch. Oops, come here. Go away. File, Safari Vet. I think I've talked about it. It's a veterinarian clinic, a large veterinarian clinic. And so here is how this works. Let me zoom in a little bit here, pan this over, find the right cursor. There we go, pan this over. And so you see my camera locations, and I can show, like, let's hide, I'll even hide the map underneath it. So there's all the cameras. There's the cameras overlaid on a map. I have my Ethernet cabling, which is not actually direct line, but it is connected to the switch right now. I just got the location of the firewalls in the ceiling, so now I can actually route the cables around. So here's the cool thing, right? So here's all my cameras listed at the bottom. Here's the cabling. You see over here, and I recognize this is really small, but you see here, twisted pair, that's my Ethernet. So current estimated length of 975 feet. And as I move this around, you'll actually see that number change. You can see it down in the corner there. You can see that number changing. And so now that I've got the locations of the firewalls, I will have to add points. Oops, not like that. Now I broke it. I'll have to add points into each one of these. There we go. I think that's right. Here we go. And add the path to the actual location like so, and put them all where they need to be. Anyway, so this is quite cool. It seems to be working out quite well. So love that. Oh, and everything says I'm alive and still alive. That's great. So stoked about that. So that's something I'm working on. What else is going on that I can tell you about? I've got a couple product videos, sponsored stuff that I'm working on. Something else for the Mevo camera. So for these guys, got a new video I'm working on for the Mevo Start. And I'll just show you, where did it go? I'm working on a video for this Tascam Portacapture X8. They have recently added support for timecode over Bluetooth, and so I'm doing a video about that. I was going to do a video on the NIC 5 launch, but I don't have time. So you have to watch some of the live shows, the webinars that I did for that. I feel like there's one that I'm missing. There's something else I'm missing in there, but anyway, there's a lot going on, hence the chaos. Anyway, that's it. All right, right here, the lifts meter. Philip wants to see the lifts meter. Yeah, I got to get that up and running. I did get the parts, which hopefully are what I actually need. I haven't even tried to hook it up yet. Oh, actually, perfect timing to ask this. And Philip, you would know. I've never used AES/AUB, UAB, AUB cables, whatever. You know, the digital audio thing. So it's a 1/4 inch. Can I just use any 1/4 inch cable? Like a standard audio 1/4 inch patch cable? Is that good enough? Or do I need special cables? I keep looking it up, and of course you find special cabling. You find cables that are labeled for it, but they're usually really long, so I don't know if it's like, okay, if you're gonna do a long run, then you really gotta have super high quality. I get that. But if it's just a short run, does it matter? Again, I haven't plugged it in, so I actually don't know. But yeah, let me know. Mr. Brown, good to see you, buddy. Look at that. My friend Jeffrey Brown in the house from Austin, Texas. How you doing, buddy? Been using the TC electric meter for a while. That's awesome. That's the meter thing that I got. So let me just grab it. So I'll tell you what I'm doing to make this work, hopefully. And this is the challenge that I've had to deal with. If I can find the other box that came, which is somewhere, I have no idea where it is. Fabulous. I love when I lose everything. Where did that go? Is this it? HDMI to SDI. Nope, that's the wrong way. Okay, well, I'll just grab this one because I don't even know where the other one is. But the dealio is, so this thing is a fun little TC electronic screen that has that LUFS meter over time, so you see the little spirally clock thing. Awesome. And, oh good, Doug is saying, oh yeah, Doug would know this, of course. Doug is saying, AES EBU, there we go. I knew there was some extra letters in there. On quarter inch is going to be balanced TRS, same signal you'd find on an XLR. Excellent, thank you. Okay, good. So this is digital, just long cables, but it's digital input only. Can't plug an analog signal into this. So how do I get a digital audio feed off of my hardware? And I realized this is the wrong one, it's going the wrong way, but the Blackmagic mini converters, the older ones, have a audio splitter, what do you call it? Audio extractor on it. So this one's going the wrong direction. This is SDI in, HDMI out. So I have one that goes the other way because that's just how my setup is. I need to bring the SDI in from my feed and then plug that in, and the HDMI out will then have AES EBU out. So it'll extract the digital audio. And I'm hoping, theoretically, I can plug that into here and it'll all work. So I found an older one of these on eBay, the right direction, if I have no idea where it's, some links around here somewhere, and that hopefully will do it. So that's the hope. That is the hope. Analog to optical to analog demurrer. Obviously that's what I'm dealing with. So hopefully it works. Hopefully that works. It's a theory. It is a theory. You can often use unbalanced tip sleeve cables as well. Okay, well, I've got them, so I will find out. I've got TRS and TS cables, so I can do that. Okay, that's it. That's all the stuff that's happening. It's too much. You've been using an analog to optical converter. Yeah, so hopefully that one works. Find the right one. And that'll be cool. And then I will see my audio at all times. I'll still screw up. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I'll still mess up, but it's just one more thing. At least then I'll be able to see my levels on a nice, solid, consistent, over time meter. All right, I'm out of here. It is too much for one day. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Love y'all. I'll see you in a week. I will not be releasing a video next week just because so many things are happening at once, but these videos will eventually get out there. Okay, bye. I hide my show close button so I don't accidentally hit it, but then I always forget where is it, and I gotta find it. And then, anyway, all right, bye.